Why have I quit my job? Why have I, bought a van? And why am I going to drive around the country? Well, I'm passionate about the idea that you need to be heard. And I want to stitch these stories together across the states. We're going to find the commonalities. And it's going to be really an amazing experience. And I look forward to you joining me on the jar. Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Mental Health Today. It's your host, Ken Stearns. Another beautiful day in Las Vegas. Going to be a little hot for the winter time, but it's a little chilly out there this morning. On my travels with the Jar podcast, as you saw that little Making the Van video, pontificating what might be that common thread that I'd find in the stories across the U.S. And as I mentioned before in the show, it was mental health. So that led me to launch the Jar Foundation, and then ultimately to kind of find out a little bit more about the industry and what people are doing in mental health and how they got there. This show came about. So Mental Health Today is really about, people, leaders in the business and what they're doing and how they got there. Kaitlin, very interesting background. As I was kind of snooping around your LinkedIn profile, which is how I get all my guests, creeping around the back pages of LinkedIn, Google searching under mental health and finding all of us soldiers in the battle out there. And Kaitlin, you're one of them. And it's interesting. You're on an interesting journey. I don't know how you started it. So I kind of hope today we can find out a little bit about how you got in the space and what you're doing. And before you start solving another business's problems by trying to solve your own problems, we had a little funny backstage chat. So Kaitlin, welcome to the show. How's everything going today?
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be on the Jar. I love what you're doing. I love the idea of traveling around and meeting people, working at all different intersections and angles on all of this. And, as much as like mental health has become such a buzzword and trauma has become such a buzzword, we're still at the very, very beginning of figuring this all out. The size of the need, what the need actually is, how to address it. Do we address it through, government systems, a private healthcare, schools, education, family, all the different angles of addressing the enormous need in front of us. And we're all at this time now where we're, acutely aware of our fragile states, really, since COVID.
Yeah, fragile states.
I travel a lot for my job now, and I feel that fragility, people on edge, irritable, about to, lose their cool in the airport or, with a waiter or waitress, you see it everywhere, just people on edge and not, communicating in the most kind ways. So
you feel it.
Yeah, you feel it.
It's exactly. A bit of an energy. Yeah. I do see a little bit. I am seeing a bit more empathy at points as well. I have to say, I do feel the tension in the edgy part. Yeah. But I also feel there's a lot of humanity part of us that are going around with a bigger heart now.
That's right. People are really coming together, right? They're collaborating and trying to solve problems together. And I think, we've grown in our self-awareness in general around our psychology, but then we've also grown a lot in how we're parenting children, and we're parenting from this more connected, present, mindful, place. And so we're teaching empathy to our children in a way that I think previous generations didn't even have the language for, or the modeling for how to, increase empathy in children. But if you can teach empathy from the time they're, really little, when it comes naturally to children anyway, then it's, so much easier. So I guess I should say like how I got into the work. A little about myself. I am a mom with 4 kids, and
good on you.
A big part of my journey into this work, because I guess, starting back in my college years, I spent some time in Romania in the Romanian orphanages. It was at a time when they
Hmm.
were winding down, but they still were
Oh,
institutionalizing children. And I spent quite a bit of time over there. And that was, in a very formative time for myself in my
yeah.
early 20s. And I'm seeing children who have not been touched, who have not been held, who
Oh
have not
man.
had, I'm seeing firsthand attachment trauma. And
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
seeing what that does to a child's development firsthand. And it does, it turns a human being into something that doesn't quite feel human, to be
Yeah.
honest. It was
Yeah.
very, it was, really, really radical to experience this before I'd had my own children. But it got me really interested in attachment
Hmm.
trauma and child
Oh, okay.
development. And I had
Okay.
gotten my undergrad in education and started out as a teacher. And so I was already interested in children's development, but then I
Hmm.
got really interested in their emotional, social, their mental development. So then I, had my own kids and had a stint of time over in Israel while my husband was in medical school over there. And I
Mm.
started working with a refugee population. And these were kids who had
Oh,
walked from Sudan with their families, and they
whoa.
were left at the mercy of the community. And a Druze community up on Mount Carmel took them in, and then I worked with another woman from England to set up a preschool for the kids, so that what had happened with these families is the dads were held in detention centers and the moms were left with the kids, and then the
Oh,
kids
yeah.
weren't enrolled in school. And
Yep.
so then that was my first experience with family separation and what that does to the family structure and what
Mm.
that does to the mom's mental health, the children's mental health,
Oh God. Yeah.
and got me super, super interested in refugee care and migration studies, migration
Mm.
focused work. And so from there, we went to Boston, and that's where my husband and I both finished our graduate degrees. And I ended up going back for a master's in human development and psychology. And so then I
Okay.
got to really do a deep dive
Yeah.
on,
Yeah. Now you.
trauma and what trauma looks like over the
Yeah.
lifespan, and how our mental health is implicated in all different aspects of our journey. So
Mm.
that was, kind of the completion of my, education training. The real
I mean,
training
that's in,
happens in the field, but you
I mean,
know,
that's weird. You were in the field
yeah.
first,
Yes. Yeah.
and then you ended up in the formal education. That
Yep.
must have been a little bit interesting too, because you're being taught stuff, learning stuff, and you might have had some moments where you're going, yeah, no, like some
Right.
yes, like yeah,
Right.
totally. See, I've seen that on the field. That really happens, and then you be some things going, that's not, yeah, that's not true, or not true.
That's
But I had a different experience.
correct. Correct. That's the joy and joy and burden
Yes.
of going back to school midlife. You know, you do have
Yes.
the experience, the real life experience under your
Yeah.
belt, which adds so much richness then to the curriculum and engaging with,
Yes. Yeah.
your peers and your professors and everything. But I think it is, taking the real life experience and then, reflecting in the text and
Yeah.
textbook and the
Yeah.
paper writing and everything. And I could, so many in my cohort were fresh out of undergrad, and because
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
typical now, right? Everybody's
Sure. Yeah.
getting their masters right after their undergrad. But for me, I'm so thankful I didn't do that, because I
Mhm.
would have gotten a master's in education administration, to become a principal or become a superintendent. And that wasn't my life's, that wasn't the direction I was meant to go. But going back,
Yeah.
living some life, having my children. So I'd had my 4 kids by the time I went back to grad school. It was actually my youngest first day of kindergarten that mommy is back in school. So we lined up in our, back to school picture. It was really cute. And I
That's
had to
super
wait.
cute.
I
That's
had to
beyond
wait
cute.
until, yeah, it was cute. I
That's
had to
beyond
wait till
cute.
she was in school, because we couldn't afford for me to be a student and pay for
Yeah.
childcare.
Yeah. Oh
So
God. Yeah.
I definitely had a period of time where I was in the trenches of motherhood. And I would say that those years, I mean, there's nothing harder than being a stay-at-home mom and really, connecting with your children and engaging in their big
Oh,
emotions and small emotions and everything in between those years. And in my case, I do have twins in the middle. And so, and my fourth was a surprise. That means I have, for those just listening and you can't see our faces, Ken, it looks like he's delivering a child right now in his face.
it's like, oh my God. Like as soon as you said twins, and it's like, because that's a surprise. And then it's
Right.
like what, honey? You were what? Yeah, we're
Yes.
pregnant again. Yeah.
That's right.
Oh,
That's right. I
awesome.
handed my husband the positive pregnancy test on his 40th birthday. And the twins, I had just celebrated the twins' first birthday, and I had,
Oh, yes.
I'd cried like we made it. We made it to one,
Yeah.
everyone is still
I can't
alive.
imagine. Right. Yeah. Right.
And then a surprise, number four. So I have three boys, and then my surprise is my little girl, which is pretty special.
Oh, that's beautiful. Okay.
Yeah,
And then you got
but I
you.
did have 3 under the age of 2, which means I had 3 in diapers and, in a lot of ways it felt like triplets. And so
Yeah.
those
Yeah.
years,
Oof.
this is pertinent to my story because
Zombie years.
yeah, exactly, exactly. It really did break me down. It broke me down
Okay.
mentally, it broke me down physically. I had 5 surgeries in a year. It completely blew out my back
Whoa.
carrying the twins, and I had
Oh,
underlying scoliosis to
okay. Yeah.
begin with.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then, and then carrying twins on top of scoliosis was not helpful for
Yeah. Not a good idea.
not great at all. So, anyway, that is how I got really fascinated with the mind body connection and how our mental health absolutely does impact our physical well-being too,
Mm,
and especially in the case of chronic pain.
yeah.
There's the
Okay.
biological driver of pain. You maybe a genetic link, maybe something physically broken or wrong in the body. But when the body continues to send a false pain signal, sometimes that false signal can be kept alive by
Mm,
psychological drivers like depression, anxiety, PTSD.
interesting.
So that's what led me
Interesting.
eventually into the
Yeah.
work that I'm doing now with cacti. So yeah, it was
Did you? Yeah. But I mean, that's such a practical journey.
yeah, yeah. I'm leading a pain drug development company now. But as a chronic pain sufferer, it's like this is and I hope to meet other people in the pharmaceutical industry who and I know there are a lot are driven by their own
Must be.
experiences, but
Yeah.
I find it really special to interact with other pain patients and to really hear from the patient population, even though we're small molecule drug development. And that means we're preclinical long before we're in phase 1 clinical trials and interacting with patients. We're in those
Wow.
early days, but I still get to hear from the pain community quite a bit, and learning from their experiences, hearing how they feel dismissed, discredited, that they're
Oh, the drug
experience.
addicts, I mean, just
Yeah,
I've heard the stories where it's just like you going in for more, you need medication, and they're like, well, I don't know.
that's right. That's right. Yeah. They're discounted for the level of pain that they're under. And chronic pain, unfortunately, favors women more than men. And,
Mm.
historically, we've put women in the category of being hysterical or overly
Yeah,
emotional.
right,
And
right.
so,
Yeah, yeah.
their physical experience of pain is often not given as much credibility as if a man says he's in pain. Never mind the
And
fact that we, deliver children
I
and
I was gonna say, and I thought the women's pain tolerance, maybe it's because just women have a higher tolerance of pain, so we just discount, you can handle it.
that's right. That's right. Yeah. I have my theories about this, but
I don't think that's the actual theory. That's not my actual theory,
mhm.
but I have a feeling it's a little bit different. Probably closer to your theory.
Oh, so
So
yeah, it's
yeah,
been really, really interesting to
tell
also
us
realize
tell us
how
about
much.
cacti too.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So Cacti Therapeutics is early stage small molecule drug development. So we're developing synthetics. We're going the FDA long road to a new
Wow.
drug application, which can take, 18 months, even when you have your first molecules. And I do have my first molecules synthesized now, and they're in vitro and in vivo studies. So that means cell based and then animal based studies. And we're trying to do that initial screening where you see if it actually hits the target you want it to hit, and it's,
Okay.
doing what you hypothesize your molecule will do. So it's very early stages, but we have a really special approach. It's novel. We are
Okay.
inducing plasticity where there's maladaptive plasticity and chronic pain. We are giving the pain neurons a chance to repair themselves. Now, this isn't typically
Oh.
done in pain drug development.
Yeah,
We
you don't want to do
typically
that. You're going to go out of business.
right, we don't want
What
to we don't
what
want to
what legitimate
repair
pain pill?
anything.
What legitimate pain pill would actually repair something?
Right, right. Yeah, this is an uphill battle. Anything
That's
that gets
great.
at, remission or
Hmm.
things that get it we don't use the word cure because, you want to be very, very
Oh
cautious
yeah, stay
about.
away from that word.
Right, exactly. But things that, medications or therapies that bring, various conditions into a remission. That's a tough sell when we're used to a
Wow.
medical model where we take a pill every day, and we
Yes, that's
mask,
yeah.
we mask
You
our
mask
pain.
things. Yeah, that's I mean you're supposed to mask pain, not cure it.
That's right. And, in the case of pain neurons that are maladaptively firing or misfiring, um, we've tried different approaches like blocking them, even killing the neuron. But if you think about conditions like phantom limb pain, even if
Yeah.
you remove the appendage, that doesn't mean that you're going to be out of pain. The body, the body can
Uh,
still send that pain signal.
that is right. That is interesting to think that you could kill the neuron, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, you can
because
cut the arm
pain.
off, and it doesn't matter.
That's right. Pain is centrally derived. It is not just from our periphery. It's not just in the
Yeah,
nociceptors of the little pain neurons in our periphery, but those nociceptors send a signal to the spinal column. The spinal column sends a signal to the
and so
brain and
the
then
brain
back down.
and
And
okay.
it's, so the signal, the pain signal is coming from the center of us really, and not just from these little neurons on the periphery. So our approach is novel, and we'll see. We don't know if it'll work. We're going to find out. But we're
How yeah, are
you
you
know
at it seems like you're at a very critical stage. You're
we
testing
are.
it.
That's
Yeah,
right.
I mean, you got the little guys and you're sending them into what, plants and other
No, no, in cell based assays, and then in animal behavioral work. So mice
okay,
and rats
okay.
and
Oh, so it is into you're putting it is getting into mice and rats already.
yes, yes. Yeah, I have two research
Okay.
sites right now. Queen's University in Canada is one of them, and then the Salk Institute is doing some animal behavioral work for me too.
How exciting. I mean, are you
Yeah,
like yeah, I mean,
I
this
am
is the
excited.
big
I mean, I'm excited, and I'm the only one in the company that is not a scientist. I'm working with an entire team of pain neurobiologists, so they are,
I love it. I love that.
yeah, trained as pain drug developers and pain pharmacologists, immunologists. This is their area of expertise, and I'm the one executing on the plan. That's why I'm the CEO. So I keep everybody on track, keep us moving toward
Right.
our milestones in the mission. But yeah, so I can get really excited about our hypothesis, what's possible,
Yes.
what's not, and and they also keep me in check that follow the hard data, follow the science, only build on the science, we don't build
Okay.
beyond. So I have to be measured and remain hopeful that this new approach is going to work, and also very sober about whether it would work or not. So
Well, you need a dreamer and a team of scientists,
yes, yes, you do have to have
because the
that.
scientists will just be too scientific. Like, that's also dull and not fun. And, How do they
Yeah.
celebrate? You need someone to celebrate the little wins. Keep
Yes.
the energy going. You need the practical person.
That's right. And boy, we do have to celebrate the little wins in
You have
every
to celebrate,
aspect of
right?
life, right? And I was
Absolutely,
just reminded of this the other day that,
absolutely.
especially when you're working toward really big goals as a startup company or
Yes.
in the entrepreneurial world, you can get so focused on these big milestones that you forget to look behind you and see all the little
Yeah.
things that you've accomplished. And I was thinking about this the other day, even in our family, just taking time at the end of every week and celebrating these little small,
Oh
happy
man.
moments in a week, instead of
You-
just always thinking forward to,
Yeah.
what's in front of us. But let's look back and celebrate the little wins.
Yeah. I mean, especially with 4 little ones at home, there's a lot of. I mean, it's chaos, right? The energy in the house is chaotic, and I
Yeah,
think
especially
you
since I have
lose
3
everything.
in orchestra now. So we have 3 instruments being practiced at night. Thankfully, they're not
What do
all
you
playing at the same time, but
now?
uh,
Okay, now here's a good a parenting question. Just it's an intelligence test. Did you have any brass instruments or are these string instruments?
thank God they are string.
Well played. Well played, Kaitlin.
Yes, I definitely encourage them in the direction
Well,
of cello, bass,
yeah,
even string instruments that, are more tolerable than a screechy violin or
yeah, yeah, actually, to it. And the smaller you go in the strings, it gets a little hairy. So you're
Mhm.
right. Yeah, bigger string instruments, no brass in the house. Um,
Yes, and
cello's
mommy
great.
does have to, maintain her mental health after all. So,
God, I can tell
uh,
you these are the zombie years. You wake up and you go to bed,
yeah,
it's just zombie land.
yeah,
You will when you're 50, you'll forget like 8 years of your life. It'll just be like a big it'll just be a great like a very it's like a curtain. You can't it's opaque. Yeah, I know I remember and there were
I
birthdays and
survived
soccer
that.
stuff.
Yeah,
But yeah, I survived it.
but I
And
don't
yeah,
quite
it's
remember the details of it. Yeah,
I
I
and that's
definitely
exactly it. Yeah,
unfortunately, I
that's
already feel that way about my kids are in the middle years now. And quite honestly, to the women out there that are like, oh, how are you running a company and you're a
yeah.
mom and all of that?
Yeah, how are you doing that?
I tell every woman I know that our life is in seasons for a reason. Like there are seasons in nature and there
Mm,
are seasons of life. And, I didn't go back to school until my youngest was in kindergarten. And now my kids are in the middle years. They're very independent. They can get themselves up and ready
okay.
and on the bus on their own. And, what I'm doing right now wouldn't be possible when I was in the nursing years, when I was in that
Yeah,
season of caring
yeah,
for
yeah.
little babies, cleaning up after messes all day long and expending of my own body, to breastfeed and everything. I couldn't have worked
Yeah, this
12-hour days. Yeah.
no way. I don't think it's no way you can.
Not
Yeah,
with
look
our
at
current structures of a lack of support for moms, like I
yeah,
think that there are
yeah,
companies that are really trying to build that in now and give moms the opportunity to even have their babies, with them or work from home and be able to,
right.
stay home in those early days. But that's all pretty new, also out of COVID, recognizing
Yeah.
that, well, we kind of sent all moms back home to care for kids and realize, oh, this does not work to not have full-time caregivers. And the moms were really kind of kicked out of the workforce during that time just to save the families. So we've
Yeah,
we've got a lot of repair to do out of that period of time because
agree.
there are a lot of women that are trying to come back into the workforce and really struggling with that, post COVID.
I look at my daughter. She just had her third,
Mhm.
and I guess he's about 6 months now, and she's started so Q4 back
Yep.
on the road. She's a salesperson,
Yep.
and so she travels.
Mhm.
And it's so painful for her, but she had a good 4 months with maternity and everything and vacation, which
Yeah,
is God, I can't remember what it was with our firstborn. It was like 30 days later you're back to work. It
that's
was
right.
brutal,
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
inhumane. And but I can see I
And
feel for her a lot.
yeah, I was going to say there's European countries that would look at even, the 6 months as not adequate at all, when they're providing
Yeah.
maternal leave for a year and then paternal leave for another year. So
Yes.
that first 2 years of life are really covered with that
Yeah.
one-on-one,
Yeah.
attachment that I will say is, as a developmental psychology expert, that is a critical period of time. That
Yes.
0 to 4
Yeah.
is a very special time in a child's brain development.
Yeah.
And we have to think as a society about the things that we invest in that build the fabric of our society into, a strong, I mean, sure, you can put it
Mm.
in economic terms, like a strong
It's
economy is built on healthy people.
abs-
But if we don't have,
absolutely.
emotionally mature, healthy people, it erodes every aspect of society.
Mhm.
But when will
Really
we
does.
prioritize that? When will we see the nurturing of families as a top priority, from every standpoint?
Mm.
I'm waiting for that
I
day.
Yeah, I'm dying to have a conversation with somebody in one of the large healthcare companies because it's economically I mean I lick my finger and I can just hold it up in the wind and I
Mhm.
know monetarily that the amount of expenses and healthcare that is done because of mental health issues not taken care of. I mean,
That's right.
it could be I would just maybe a guess. One third, one third of
Mhm.
the entire spend we have is preventable
Yeah,
by better addressing children, better addressing the family, and allowing the family to stop these cycles, to
that's
stop
right.
these terrible cycles of childhood. I have seen, the interviews I've done 320 something interviews now,
That's
and
amazing.
it's really, when I say the number now, it's just kind of like, because, I was there when I had zero, right? I remember
Yep.
when it was an idea. So like to say I did 300 is like, whoa, is that really true? That I do? Yeah, I guess I have. And so
Awesome.
many people have stopped the cycle, Kaitlin. It's so heartening for me
Mhm,
that
mhm.
their childhood was, X, and what they've done with their kids is the opposite.
That's
And
right.
they recognize the damage done to them and how long of the journey they had to fix themselves or to even find out they were broken. I didn't
Right.
even, just I'm broken, but I don't even know I'm broken. And then finding out I'm broken and then how to repair. And it goes back to the childhood stuff and the traumas in childhood and a lot of attachment stuff, right? A
Right.
lot of attachment stuff. And through divorce, through separation, through drug use by the parents, and the impact that has. But breaking that cycle has given me, it's like so powerful to hear that story, right? Where they're like, yeah, this is what happened. And this is how I'm raising my kids.
That's right. Yeah, it's very hopeful to me as well. And I think that our generation and the generations, coming are so much more self-aware and have a lot
Yes.
more tools at their disposal
Yeah.
too. Mental
Yes.
health tools from mindfulness to, lots of different kinds of somatic therapies
Hmm.
and I lump exercise in that. We don't just have lifting weights and yoga anymore. We have all kinds of different ways to move our
Yeah.
bodies. Our understanding of nutrition is so much better than it used to be. And yeah, just a lot more tools at our disposal. And I think that with that growing self awareness and building more supports around ourselves and our communities, there is a lot of hope for the future.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we're close to turning the corner on a lot of that generational, a lot of the
Yes.
generational
Yeah.
trauma that's, and we're getting those cycles broken. And I
But
think
it
that's
does
part of
take
the
a
awareness.
lot of courage to get there.
Uh,
Like you're saying, you really admire those people you've met that have arrested a cycle because
yeah.
it is so easy in stress to default to whatever is
I,
our default mode, right? So even when I was trying to change my parenting paradigm, I made a big shift from the um more controlling and heavy on the discipline parenting
yes.
style that I was parented with, spanking and so on, and I wanted
Yeah.
to parent differently, the more connected, positive
Hmm.
lens. And and yet in stress, you go to your default mode. And,
Oh,
so it takes conscious effort all the time to be
yeah.
changing those patterns of our own behavior, and our own, like, okay, this is the direction I go in stress. And it's not the path that I,
I
want to move in. But it takes a lot of self-awareness and compassion. It takes a lot of self-compassion, because
it takes
we're gonna
self-compassion.
mess up.
We're gonna mess up, and you got to give yourself some grace and look back. You're right, though. I watch my daughter raise her kids, and I'm just in awe
Yep.
of how
Yep.
amazing they are. And they're such better. I mean, she's such a better parent. Her and her husband, they're such better parents. It's like I look at them, I'm like, dang.
Well,
Like
and
it's
and I
impressive, right?
right, and my parents, they also share that same sentiment. And I remember my dad saying that, he wanted us to, he was hoping to do things a little better than his parents did it. And he expected
Yeah.
to do it a little better than he did it. And every generation to build on the foundation that the
Yes.
previous
Yeah.
generation, um, you know, lays for them. And I think that's a really important, humble approach now that I'm a parent too. And, my kids will get upset about something and you're the worst mom ever, and
I doubt it.
and I just want to be like, oh, just wait till you're a mom, I'm doing the best I can. But,
Oh, yeah.
just that reality of like, no, I'm not going to do it perfectly. And you are going to
Yes.
build on what I've started. And I hope you do parent better. I hope you
Yeah.
figure out this screen time thing. That's what I hope you figure out,
Yeah.
so that your kids aren't living on iPads for their whole
Man,
childhood.
it's a drug, right? It's
It,
impressive.
yeah, yeah. And that's a
It's a
challenge
really
that
good
our
drug.
parents didn't have.
Oh, yeah.
Monitoring the amount of screen time that children have is yeah, that's a challenge that previous generations didn't have to deal with.
Yeah, that's for sure. What's the path for you guys? What's the path to get the next steps? When are you going to launch? What's the
Yeah, yeah.
like everything was perfect. When do we see you when do I see you on the Monday Night Football TV show?
Oh man, if I could map out a perfect path
Yeah,
for
yeah.
these novel compounds. I mean, the truth is, when you have a novel mechanism of action and you have the potential of a first in class drug, that means that
Hmm.
chances are you're going to have a lot of R&D, a lot of
Yeah.
iteration. And so I'm really thankful that I have a brilliant med chemist on our team and working with a really good synthesis organization too, that we can go back and we can do a lot of iteration. And I
Okay.
expect that. I don't expect that the compounds will be perfect
No,
out of
yeah.
the gate. And
No.
so, but even so, I would like to see the selection of a lead candidate. So that's a compound I will take, through further testing. I'd
Okay.
like to see the selection of a lead candidate within a year. And
Okay.
if everything goes perfectly, 18 months, I would like to be doing IND. That's the investigational new drug application, your write up package for the FDA.
Okay.
And you have to do IND enabling work. You have to do all of these studies to get to that point, and then you write that up, and you hope for a new drug application, an NDA,
And
and
and could that be
yeah,
2 years? 2 years
yeah, yeah,
for
yeah.
about
So
2 years for the NDA?
that's right, that's right.
Okay.
So that IND enabling work in 18 months, and yeah, 2 to 3 years, hopefully in first in human. That's phase 1 clinical trials.
Wow.
So that's why it takes about 7 to 10 years to get a drug from conception all the way through to. It's a long road, and I'm a sprinter, not a marathoner, and I'm forced into the marathoning
I
now. So
How do you
it's,
finance this thing? I mean,
yeah, so that's
that's a crazy, like, how do you finance this? Because it's a good thing. I mean, what you're doing
right.
is not even just a good thing. It's like it could be like you could make a lot of drugs obsolete overnight. Like in a whole slew
Well,
of new versions of what you're doing could come out.
right. we hope really what we're doing is offering, you know, an alternative to, especially for conditions that, I mean, there's a lot of unmet needs in chronic pain, but
Yeah.
there's all kinds
Yes.
of neuropathies, diabetic peripheral neuropathy,
Oh, yeah.
chemotherapy
Yeah.
induced neuropathy. There's a lot of neuropathies that very much it's the nociceptors, you know, are
Hmm.
firing away when they should be calm. I call
They
them
should be resting.
yeah, I call them angry
Yeah. They're like, yeah,
nerves.
just calm down, bro.
Yeah.
Like, you have to be so angry.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. So, you know, there's a lot of conditions that we hope to address with this nosoplastogen program. But yeah, you know, I think looking the main thing for me is that because of the opioid crisis, because of
Mm,
you know, because there hasn't been a lot of innovation and investment. It takes both. It takes like really innovative teams and technologies and
yes. Yeah.
investment.
And
And there
money. Yeah.
hasn't been that in pain drug development in the wake of what happened with the opioids and everything. So what I'm really hoping to do is push pain drug development into that very, you know, innovative place again and get
Mm,
investors interested in pain again, because
right.
you know the markets for pain are enormous. 1 in 4 people have chronic pain, 1 in 10 are disabled by it. So you talk about
Whoa.
economic burden, it's a huge economic burden.
Whoa.
And you know, and we've got, something has to give, something has to change, because we're, you know, we're losing a giant portion of our workforce
Yeah.
because of chronic pain. Even just
Yeah.
think about low back pain, how much that impacts, you know, the workforce. So yeah, as far as funding these things, that's why pharmaceutical development is such a costly endeavor, because
Yeah.
it's a long road. There's so much testing that has to be done. And, you know, the way our medical system is set up right now, it is about safety of
Yeah.
novel compounds. And sometimes,
Yeah.
you know, that the safety, I mean, there's a lot of drugs on the market today that would never pass muster now.
I would say, I would imagine there's a few drugs on the market that might not make it through today's trials.
That's right. That's right. And you do have to ask yourselves like, okay, so there's also a tipping point there, right? Like we need access to these medicines that are life-saving, and there is some amount of risk that we all have to tolerate to be able to
Yes.
meet the need. And I feel like maybe we've gone too far in
Yeah.
the safety direction, and now, you know, people are really, really suffering without any solutions out there. So yeah, we'll see. But pharmaceutical development is very costly. It's usually backed by venture capital. In our case, since it's a novel approach, we're going to be applying for grant funding. The HEAL initiative out of the
Oh, that's
NIH,
great.
yeah, they are really looking
Smart.
for a non-opioid pain
Okay.
solution, and they're deploying millions every year to academic
Okay.
institutions and
Great.
industry, you know. So we're going to be grant writers this year. We're going to be taking all of this preclinical data and writing some very extensive grants and hope to get funding that way. But
What
if
a
there are any
journey.
investors listening, I am always looking for angels. I am always looking
Absolutely.
for
Yeah, we need an
true,
angel.
yeah, true believers in, you know, in a disruptive, innovative approach to pain, and that believes in a team that's really, really committed. You know, we're not giving up on this. For me, this is the rest of my career. You know, I'm in my 40s now, and I'll take this into my 60s, and
Yeah, I
you know,
well, you said it before, which is, it's going to take 7 years, right? It takes 7 years. You're on this
that's right.
journey.
That's right.
So, yeah, there's no getting off the bus for you.
Nope.
Um,
Nope. Like I said, I've been that pain patient. You know, I was on pain meds that didn't work. I was absolutely crippled in pain before my
Dang.
surgery for a year. Was just, and that level of pain does deteriorate your mental health too.
Oh God, you can't
You
think. Yeah, you
can't
can't.
stay happy. You know, you
Yeah,
are depressed all the time because you can't function in that kind of pain.
yeah, I can't imagine. I'm not really good at pain. I don't do pain well. I think the universe has done me right. It gave me the zero pain tolerance, and it hasn't induced any real chronic pain for me.
Yeah. 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 It's very, it can build our resilience. And I do look at my own
Yeah.
pain story and
Okay.
I feel that, I'm a tough cookie. So, yeah.
But for me, I would 100%. Yeah, I would. Yeah, I don't need the. I don't need the. Was that the moral buildup? I don't need that experience.
Yeah. No, I don't wish it upon anyone. I don't want
I'll
anyone to
pass.
be, pain. I do tell people though, pain is, it's kind of a given in this experience of consciousness and living life. We're going to have pain, but
Yeah,
suffering is something that we have some control over. So
I
I'm
like that.
trying to alleviate the suffering.
I like that. The pain is real, but the suffering we can find ways to help.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I just put up, for anybody listening on the audio platforms, I just put up the cactitherapeutics.com.
Thank you.
So I just put up Kaitlin's website, and that's a great place to go and learn and to see a little bit more of the tech, right? You can get a little bit more of a peek behind on what the conversation is around the tech. It's a really interesting site. Kaitlin, thanks so much for being a guest.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for having me. I feel like we could talk all day long about all kinds of things, but
yeah, we could. We got all kind of stuff. I want to check back with you in, 6 months or 4 months, like around February, March,
yeah, I
January,
appreciate
February,
that.
March,
We
and
we
just
will,
see.
we will have some exciting developments. I feel like this next year, even this next 6 weeks are really critical for, the
That,
experiments that are happening right now.
that's
But,
what I had a feeling.
yeah, but we're also exploring, clinical trials for veterans with PTSD and chronic pain. Again,
Oh,
like the psychological aspects of all of this are really interesting to us. And even though we're a long way from shifting that whole conversation into, a more biopsychosocial spiritual model of
okay.
pain,
Yes. Yeah.
we're trying to get to that place. We're heading in that direction. And I think this next year is going to be really, really exciting. And in any case, healing is a lifelong journey. That's what I tell everyone. So all of us,
Healing is a life. Yeah. It is a
yeah,
lifelong journey.
it is.
And because we're experiencing life along the way, right? We have these little traumas and experiences in life, and you got to kind of constantly be, let's say, not repairing ourselves, but just checking in with yourself.
That's right. That's right.
It's a
Building the
it's a
supports around you. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lifelong journey, and I think I've met so many people at different ages, and as people mature, generally what I see is kind of all of that life experience that they've got, the good and the bad, the stuff they've healed, the stuff
Yeah.
they haven't healed, kind of comes together, and they end up, somehow in their purpose. I don't, this whole life journey is really interesting. So it's
Yeah.
you're kind of at this close of a second. You're like halfway through your second act in a way. You're kind of like
Yep.
at that. You're halfway over that hump on your second act, and as you close out, as you kind of close that out with getting the license and getting approval, it'll be interesting
Mhm.
to see
Mhm.
once you're sitting, on the at the power seat of this company, what do you do with that, and how different does it look when you're 60, when you're 55, 60? Be
Yeah.
really interesting to
Yeah.
see. I wish I could have a flash forward to see what you're doing when you're 60.
Yeah. Me too.
We'll have you. Yeah. Yeah. Me too. Yeah. Well, we'll have you back for that moment.
Oh, sounds great. Thank you so much. I've really enjoyed this conversation and I really
Yeah,
appreciate the work you're doing.
thank you very much, Kaitlin. I appreciate it. Hang around for 30 seconds. Say bye in the green room. I got a
Sounds
little
good.
one more commercial. Thanks everybody for listening, supporting mental health today. Especially if you're seeing the video, that's great. Please share it. If you're on an audio platform, again, just drop down, give us some little love on the ratings, give us a star, and see if you can share the episode with somebody else that could benefit. Thanks, Kaitlin. See you in 30. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, loose, baby.
But we're about to go and make this vessel with these great professionals in public glass. We're not part of the community, but we're from the outer family of glass blowing. Yeah, we're going to go make a magical giant jar. with optic lenses so that if you turn it, it changes all the time. So if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change.